All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us once again for an early retro rewind. This time, it's all my fault, as you know. Last week, I rambled on and on about the idiocy that I have sometimes. It's interesting to me that as smart as I am of tech, how stupid I feel sometimes when I make small mistakes. Um, but this will probably be the first of two because we'll probably still have one at the end of the month, like we usually do, because we don't know what's going to happen in August. So we're just gonna kind of knock everything out again. You still, I guess, am not focusing on gaming as much, or what are you doing right now?
Um, I've been getting back into professional wrestling recently. There's been some changes in the industry. Vince McMahon retired, and Triple H took over creative and talent relations for the WWE. So Triple H has a really good track record of running promotions. So
Yeah, you were telling me about that last week, and I mean, I don't know if he still goes by the game, but like back when I was watching wrestling, he was top dog in my book. Like he was always good to watch, whether he was the heel or whether he was the good guy. He was always fun to watch, and his matches were good. I've always liked watching Triple H. There's every now and then you get those wrestlers that they're just you can tell that they have it. Like this is it. Like Sting is it. You watch him wrestle, and it's like this guy is it. Bret Hart was it back in the day. He was a very technical wrestler. It's like you could just tell that he was more about putting on the show than he was about looking good or winning or all that. Like some people were just like that, and I think Triple
yeah,
H would do a good job running it. At least I hope so, because I mean, I guess technically he is a McMahon, I guess in a sense, but
right.
I just think it'd be nice to not have it ran by an actual McMahon for a while.
Yeah, and he's got a much different philosophy than Vince McMahon had for what makes a good wrestler, right? Vince McMahon was all about how do you look, how big are you, how muscular are you, how marketable are you outside of WWE. Triple H is very focused on what can you do in the ring, what can you do on the mic, and how are you going to entertain the fans. Uh, and no matter how you look, if you're entertaining and you're doing what you need to do, you're going to be the one to get the push. So it's going to be exciting to see all the talent WWE has. They got a lot of talent that a lot of people thought should be, headlining and being the ones that are the focus. And they weren't under Vince McMahon, and we think that they're now going to be the focus under Triple H, and it's going to be really cool. So that's what I've kind of been focusing on. SmackDown is on tonight. I'm recording it so I could watch it after the podcast.
That's cool. Yeah, I need to go back to watching it. So that way, if you do decide to pursue your channel, maybe I can hop on there from time to time and we can talk about it. But yeah, it's interesting to me because like I mentioned last week, but didn't really get talked about because it never got um, published or anything. How a gamer needs to run a gaming company. I think a wrestler running a wrestling company is going to be best because like look, he's like I've been in the ring, I know what it takes to entertain the fans in this fashion or whatever, and I think that that's going to be good. And just like you were talking about, I have actually seen some lists from various wrestling channels that I've followed in the past that have like shown like hey, these wrestlers, they were really good talent wise, but they didn't get the push they needed, and so they got pushed out or they got over pushed, and so their popularity fell or whatever because
Right.
maybe I don't know, maybe Vince McMahon just has an older style, thinking this worked in the '80s or the '90s. Well, that's good that it worked in the Attitude Era, but this is a different era now. You want to be more PG, I guess. So it's you got to change it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Recently, they went away from PG. So they went to a PG era for several years where it was rated PG. And last week or 2 weeks ago, they started what is it, PG-13. So they went up, or TV-14. Sorry, that's the TV rating is TV-14. So they're gonna get a little more risky now. They're saying some harsher things and being a little more mature about things. So it's getting good.
Yeah, and I think that that's just where the market needs to go, truthfully. Because granted, I haven't watched it in a long time. I've come out and admitted that wholeheartedly, and I know I need to probably get back to watching it. But it seemed like Raw was the more like we're gonna do the adult content and be risky, and SmackDown was the more like toned down, family friendly version. So
Right.
they could continue that. They could have it to maybe one portion, a Thursday night showing or a Wednesday night showing, or whatever, is specifically for the family friendly stuff, and it's just like, okay, this is the stuff that you need to put the kids away for because there's going to be mature stuff. It's almost like a games rating, where it's like, look, you're not going to let your kids play an M-rated game, so they got these um, what is it, 13 and up, teen only ratings and stuff for these games that can be fit within a certain audience. They could easily do that. They don't have to worry about making, because I just think this, the audience needs to grow. You had the Attitude Era where you were trying to grasp everybody's attention, get them away from WCW. Don't worry about TNA. Don't worry about any of the competition. Focus on us. And then when they kind of just absorbed everybody and bought everybody, they just kind of just like, yeah, we can do whatever we want now, so we're going to tone it down. And it's like, well, you can tone it down a bit, but you also need to grow with the audience, because as the audience gets older, maybe a 13, 14-year-old kid is not going to want to watch the same stuff that they did 3 or 4 years ago. So,
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting, and I like my wrestling very, you know, adult oriented, more mature storylines, more mature themes. Um, but there is a big audience of children that watch it. That can't be
mm-hmm.
denied. That's where I became a fan. I mean, I think every single wrestling fan damn near became a fan when they were a child. You hear even all the wrestlers talk about their story about when did you fall in love with the business. 95% of them say when they were a kid, when they were 8, 9, 10 years old. That's when people fall in love with wrestling, so you can't alienate the kids.
Yeah, because there's a market for it. It was a different time. I don't even know if there was any competition, but just back when it was the WWF, and you had like the Ultimate Warrior, and you had Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan. You had all the big stars, the Lex Lugers and all that stuff like that. You had the I watched it as a family. Like we would order the pay-per-views, and then we would tape record them and send them to my grandparents, who liked watching wrestling also. And yeah, we just watch it every week as a family. So it's like, as a kid, and then as again growing up as an adult, watch the Attitude Era, and then I guess that's just around the time when it just became so predictable that I could basically point for point know exactly what's going to happen with the story. It's like I don't need to watch this anymore. Like I instantly know, okay, now this wrestler's going to end. Here he comes. Like, you
Yeah.
you could do it point for point, know exactly what's going to happen. So I should probably get back into it, because based upon some of the stuff that, like, again, I watch the various videos on and I read articles on, it seems like it's getting interesting again. It doesn't seem like it's as discombobulated when they had like all the different companies that were trying to get everybody's attention. But I do miss the ECW days, man. The ECW was the stuff for me that was fun to watch, because that's where some of the wrestlers really got to shine, like Raven when he was on. When he was in ECW, and the Sandman and stuff like that, they really showed just like, how crazy can we get?
Right. And that's where Stone Cold got his kind of, found himself. That's where he went to find himself and find his character of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and like start to truly be himself, and was allowed to just go off on the mic and stuff and really show his skills and kind of be that Texas Rattlesnake badass character. So ECW, I miss it, man. I wish there was something like it. They've got AEW now, which is a new company that was founded and funded by the son of the Jacksonville Jaguars, of the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they've got deep pockets. He's a billionaire, and they funded a competitor to the WWE called AEW. They started in 2019. They've got Chris Jericho. They've got Sting. They've got Tony Schiavone on the broadcast booth. So they're kind of that new WCW style, and they have a lot of ECW type matches on there. They got a lot of hardcore wrestling, whereas WWE doesn't really have those hardcore matches right now. Or if they do, it's just like hitting each other with sticks and stuff. But in AEW, they're throwing down the thumbtacks. They're hitting each other over the head with chairs. They're going through glass and boards and lighting the ring on fire and barbed wire and stuff. So this company came in, and they're doing pretty good, and it's pretty fun to watch. So that's something you should look into. Right now, I think AEW is the best wrestling there is, and they got a lot of good stars. And then WWE right now is about to start getting really good as well. So this is the perfect time to get into the whole industry.
Yeah, I mean, just based on what you were saying, I was thinking to myself, that sounds like the perfect place to start. Because I mean, first of all, you got my man Chris Jericho, like love Chris Jericho. I just remember when he was like small time and just watching him go up, and yeah, just great. And then of course he's the lead singer of Fozzy, so that's some good.
Great band too. I like them.
So yeah, that's some good stuff right there. And then of course having Sting, the legend himself, and you're talking about like you're basically like hitting my heartstrings because you're talking about the '90s kind of not WCW but WWF, I guess back when it was called that. But when you had like Mankind and the Undertaker with their thumbtacks and they're setting stuff on fire and the more risque stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun
Did you
to. I think that'd be fun to watch.
did you ever play the wrestling video games when you were younger, or like back in the day? What were some of your favorites?
I did because I had a 64. I think we did WCW versus NWO or whatever.
Revenge or World Tour? There was two.
Yeah, I think I played them both. There was actually a while I played. The last one that I played, I don't remember what year it came out, but it was on the PlayStation 2. It had online functionality, I know that, and I created my own wrestler, and I basically just dominated the WWE. Like I went in there and like my character was just able to take everybody out.
Yeah.
But uh, that was really towards the end because by that time I was working and I would come in. By the time I got off, there was basically like 40 minutes left of the program, so I'd catch the tail end of it, and it just got to a point where it was like, okay, work's taking up too much time. But that was a different time because you had live TV then. But now that we have it to where it's recorded, you can go back and watch it on. I think it comes on Hulu also, but I think it's
Yep,
also,
they do put them on Hulu.
I think it comes to Peacock first though. But the fact of the matter is that now you can stream it, even if you go back and watch it on YouTube. You're able to catch it later. So it's something that I think will be easier for me to get back into now because I felt so lost for a while that it's like I don't even know anymore. And then I tried to watch it again, probably 12 years ago. I think was the last time. So I mean, it's been over a decade. I know that. I know I've probably missed a lot, and I would probably just be like, "Who's that guy? Who's that guy?" But
That's fun though. You get to come in without any preconceived notions, without any biases, without any of the influence of the wrestling community because you haven't been a part of it for so long. So you're not going to come in thinking, "Oh, I should hate this guy or like this guy." Or you're going to have no, you know, coercion coming in. You're going to just be able to come in and view it objectively,
yeah, which
and get a good sense of who everyone is and who you like and don't like and who's good and who's not. And that'll be cool.
yeah, and I mean, it won't take me very long because I mean, I think I'll figure it out when they start booing him. Like, I'm guessing that that's a bad guy. I don't think they like him, but then again, I've always liked some wrestlers that people booed for. And I never understood why. Like, why are we not giving this person more airtime? Like, they're great, but I don't know. It just became the kind of thing that I just stopped watching. Too much stuff started vying for my attention, but it's different now, so I'll definitely start watching it. So you're doing that, and I'm still doing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is just it's gone off the deep end with its story, but it's
Oh yeah, in a bad way?
um I don't want to reveal too much just in case you play it, but I would just say that by the time it gets around to chapter 3, they start having some different implications as far as like surpassing death and maybe cloning and stuff like that. I don't know what's really going on. There's still a long ways into the story, but I spent a lot of time on chapter 3. I got way leveled up because I was just exploring the map. I got fascinated with just finding every nook and cranny on the map that I completely forgot I was. I By the time I even got reminded of, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go there, I done forgot that I was supposed to go there because like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to go there. Like I got so caught up with side quests and just fighting that
And
I
how are the side quests? Are they fetch quests, or do they have some story and some, like, a plot thread to them?
so far I would say they have a plot. Some of them are kind of fetch quests. They'll be like, we need these parts or whatever, and you'll trade in stuff that you get along the way. But it can be just about anything. It doesn't have to be like a specific item. Like they're not sending you all the way out to go find this one apple or whatever and bring it back. I haven't seen anything like that yet. Um, Most of the stuff that I'm seeing, because it's weird because it's completely optional. Because like an explanation point will come up over a character, and you can just completely like run past them and ignore them, or you can choose to focus on them and you'll hear what they're saying, and then you sit down at the table and go, yeah, I think as a group we need to do this, and then it'll be added to your side quests, which they call a standard quest. They just call it like a regular quest. They don't call them side quests, but they seem to have relevance so far. Because they mentioned like, oh yeah, I was working with so and so. They went out to this part of the field or whatever, and we haven't seen them since. And they're like, yeah, we'll go look for them. And you can just go out there and like, it's nothing too extravagant yet. I haven't really gotten flustered with it like I did with 2, because 2 involved a lot around the blades and how they leveled up and the different abilities that they learned. And that was more frustrating than this. This feels like a straightforward RPG where it's just go here, fight these monsters, do side quests if you want, or just run around and level up. Which I did to the point to where when I advanced with the story, I was just overpowering stuff because it's just like, what do you expect? You're like level 20 and I'm almost 50. Like, but yeah, it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it, which is all that matters because I'm sort of taking a philosophy of I'm only going to play it until I stop having fun with it. So
Yeah, don't let it force you to finish it. We've only got so much time.
I don't think that it's going to force me to finish it. I think that I'm going to have to make myself finish it because it's like I don't want to stop playing, but I have to. I have to finish the story now. But it's interesting. It's an interesting story. I'm interested to see where it's going to go. Um, I'm mostly just killing time until Bayonetta comes out, and then God of War and all that stuff. But I did have something that we could talk about, um,
Sure.
if you want to, because it's I don't know. You and I've kind of touched base a little bit about like the Switch Pro or the Switch 2 or whatever. Um, Nintendo had a financial report that they did where they basically confirmed that Metroid Prime 4 is still like it's still on the slate to be released, and they got it released as to be announced in 2023. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we got Advance Wars 1 and 2. We have Metroid Prime 4 if it is a 2023 game, and the next Zelda. So those are the only 3 big games that we know of that's coming out in 2023. I'm thinking maybe 2023 is the last year for the Switch. Um, but I was going to ask you if you knew, because I think maybe you said Forspoken might be pushed into 2023.
Right.
What big games are coming out in 2023 that we even know of?
2023. Let's see. Resident Evil 4 is coming out in 2023, March 2023. The remake. I'm really excited about
I
that.
thought that was going to launch with the PlayStation. Well, I guess we don't know when the PlayStation VR 2 is going to launch. So I thought that was going to be a launch thing for the VR 2.
We've got Forspoken, January 24th. And we got Dead Space, the remake, January 27th. We got Alan Wake 2 announced for 2023.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Um, let's see, what are some other good ones? Diablo 4 is coming in 2023. That's going to be interesting. Final Fantasy 16, summer 2023.
Oh yeah, I forgot about 16 for a moment.
Yeah, so there's Marvel Spider-Man 2 is slated for 2023. That's big. That's big. We're talking that may be game of the year right there. Even considering Final Fantasy 16 and Alan Wake 2. God, it's looking like a good year. I feel like we're finally getting some really good game releases. 2022 felt so barren. I mean, we had Elden Ring at the beginning of the year and Horizon, but what else?
Yeah, but see that sort of begs the question then of did we just get a next generation console too soon? Because for the first, what's it been, 2 years, I guess, we have just kind of not really had a whole lot. I mean, we've had some big hitters here and there. Not gonna lie, you know, obviously Forbidden West. We've had some big games come out. But if 2023 is really when we're going to start seeing these consoles come out, and we're still basically getting PS4 and Xbox One games, they could have just waited. Like, I would have rather have waited for another year and have these games come out.
You got to wonder how much the pandemic affected that, right? You got to wonder how much the slowed production of the chip made it to where it just didn't seem, financially feasible to focus so heavily on next gen games for developers, publishers, and Sony and Microsoft themselves. It doesn't make sense to focus so heavily on next gen games when not that many people have the consoles in their hands, and people are still having trouble getting them.
Yeah,
So
and
I think that is the biggest reason this feels like the slowest console generation I've ever been a part of.
yeah, I mean, granted, they couldn't have really known that the pandemic was going to come, but even when the systems first launched, they kind of didn't have most of the features that they have now. I understand that changes over time, though. But yeah, I feel like we're going to finally get started on getting these big games that come out, and then it's going to be like halfway through the console cycle. Like, we're going to get a few good years, maybe 3 or 4 years of, good solid stuff, and we're going to look back at it and go, yeah, about half the console generation was just nothing. Like,
Right.
I mean, I don't know, because we're finally starting to get ramped up. We have God of War coming out, but
Callisto Protocol is in December.
just,
That, to me, that's huge.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
a huge anticipated game for me.
yeah, that's just gonna be weird because like I would have either have waited till Halloween next year or try to get it around Halloween because that seems like a good game to play in October. Like playing that around,
Everyone would be in the mood, yeah.
yeah, just playing it in December would be kind of weird. But I'm still gonna probably pick it up and play it just because I love Dead Space.
Get ready for a bloody Christmas.
Very much so, yes. And just I had so much fun with Dead Space 1 and 2. That I think this is just gonna rekindle that for me. It's gonna be like, man, this feels like Dead Space. Like this
Did
is.
you ever play 3?
I did play 3. I did not get very far into 3. I will say that. Just because it gets very not necessarily boring, but I guess it's just a slow burn. Like I think maybe the story picks up, but I just got to a point where I just lost interest because it started out way too much like an action game, and then by the time it started getting to the horror elements, it's just like, yeah, you kind of lost me.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely not as good as the first two. I think 1, I still got that on my top list of games of all time. Top list of experiences, it's going through that game for the first time was incredible.
yeah,
And you remember how much the sound was raved about back then, and I think that's around the time I got my first headset. And it was just, it was insane.
oh man, I can't. Well, no, I would pick it up for Xbox. So I was about to say, but if anybody picks that up on the PS5 and uses these Pulse 3D headsets, I can imagine that the sound is just going to be amazing because hearing the little crawling and the scratching coming from all around you, and you just hear like little, just little skirting around. It's like what was that? And you're playing it in a dark room. It's gonna be phenomenal. It's gonna be great.
That's why I'm really excited about the remake. I hope they do it justice, because I know, the original lead designer is doing Callisto Protocol. So I'm excited about both because Dead Space is one of my favorite games of all time. So I'm excited about the remake, but part of me is more excited about Callisto Protocol because it feels more like a passion project.
Yeah,
Like, you know?
and it does. It feels like it's really what I guess Dead Space 4 would have been if they had kept it around and made it like a next gen game, or even a Dead Space 5, because we might have had a Dead Space 4 for like the Xbox One or something. But I really do feel like if they had skipped a console generation and had continued with Dead Space, that Callisto Protocol would have been what it was, because it's what it feels like. It looks like Dead Space. I mean, I haven't actually played it, but it looks like it plays like Dead Space. And yeah, I'm looking forward more to it just because I already have Dead Space and I can play Dead Space. Any of them. I've played Ignition. I played the one that came out for the Wii. I've played all the Dead Space games, and yeah, Dead Space 1 was definitely my favorite. I think 2 is a very close second, just because it skirts that line of like you're almost better than it, but not quite, because you're basically just replicating the experience of 1. Um, if it was my first time playing Dead Space, then yeah, I would definitely want to pick up the remake. But just the fact that I've already played it, I'm more interested in Callisto Protocol just because it's a new story.
Right. I'll be buying both. I'm a big, big fan of alien horror. Sci-fi horror is one of my favorite genres of movie. My favorite movie of all time is Alien with Sigourney.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's my favorite movie of all time. That's my favorite genre of media of all time. I'm really big into fantasy, as you know, like Western fantasy. And but when it comes to sci-fi horror, that takes the cake for me. I just that really gets me going. So I'm gonna buy both. But I had a question that kind of came to my mind when we were talking about that. When do you think is too, like, what is too soon for a remake? Meaning, like, what year should the cutoff be? Do you think there should be a cutoff? Like, we're getting the Last of Us remake, right? And that's what, a 2011 game?
Well, I was gonna say,
PS3?
yeah, I was gonna use my answer would have been The Last of Us. Would be too soon. I think that you need to have at least one console generation. Because that's usually what 5 6 years that those usually last. Enough time for another generation. Like, as much as I don't like the fact that Nintendo has redone Ocarina of Time so many times, um, I don't gripe as much about that. Cause like, yeah, you remade it for the 3DS. The 3DS is a very popular system right now, and it's been about 10 or 15 years since Ocarina of Time came out. So a whole new generation of people can experience this game for the first time. I understand that. I'm not gonna pick up a remake. I'm not gonna pick up like I didn't pick up Skyward Sword. I'm not gonna pick up a remake because hey, I've already got the original. It doesn't interest me, but my son loves playing Zelda games also, and if he was to get his own Switch and he bought Link's Awakening, I'd be like, go ahead, play Link's Awakening. Go ahead and play the remake. Tell me what it's like, because I played the original Link's Awakening. I can tell you the story. Let's compare notes. Like, it's a medium, yes, that does deserve some time, I think, to sort of wither away, because I don't know. It also depends, I guess, upon like with the PS4, it wasn't backwards compatible with the PS3, so remaking The Last of Us as a PS4 game made sense. The fact the PS5 is backwards compatible with the PS4 and you can just play The Last of Us on the PS4 doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But again, it's how long it was it since The Last of Us Remastered came out? You said it was like 2011.
2011 was, I think, the original, and then 2014, I think, is when the remastered version came out for PS4.
Okay, so it's been over 10 years, um, if that's the case, which would probably still be acceptable because you have a whole new.
I think
Um,
if there was never a remastered, If there was never a PS4 remastered, then I think people would be a lot more accepting of this remake, because the last version would have been the PS3 original PS3 remake, right? So I think the fact that we could fire up our PS5 and play through PlayStation Plus the remastered version, I think that's why everyone's like, "What are we doing here?" You know what I mean?
That must correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't fired it up on my PS5 yet. But I mean, they sort of tweaked it a little for like the PS4 Pro. So if that's the case and it runs the same, then you're basically talking about the PS4 Pro version, which is already, I think, going to run in 4K, already going to run at a certain frame rate. So the game is basically going to run the same as it does on the PS4 Pro.
So I was wrong. It came out in 2013 on the PS3, and then 2014 on the PS4. So about a year later, it was already on the PS4 remastered after launch.
Yeah. And that I think was more annoying just because of just like you did that deliberately because you didn't make the PS4 backwards compatible. So I don't know. I guess it just depends upon. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, again, taking something from maybe the N64 or the Xbox era, or even the 360,
Right.
or even the 360 era, where like graphics were a little rough. You know, like it's a little shaky. The camera's a little bad here. You know, the controls could be better. You know, doing that, or like what they're doing with Perfect Dark, where you know, okay, you have Perfect Dark Zero didn't do too good, so you're sort of rebooting the whole series, and it's been a whole console generation. There was nothing on the Xbox One, so Perfect Dark's gonna feel like a whole new, fresh experience. You know, it's gonna be fine and dandy. So I guess it just depends. I guess it depends on how old the game is, because if it's something from before last generation, like you were talking about, like if it was Last of Us PS3 only, okay, the remake makes sense, or the remaster, I guess, makes sense. Um, but that would just be like if they had, I don't know, it just seems to me like if they just came out with The Last of Us 2, and then they announced we're remaking Last of Us 2, like, why? Like, you just came out with this game. I don't know. I guess it just depends upon the age. But if it's been almost 10 years, I guess that's fair. But I don't know. It depends on how accessible it is. Like there's no point in re-releasing Ocarina of Time again since it's on N64's NSO app as an example, and you can just play it with that included subscription. Unless you were to completely build it from the ground up, like it's running Unreal Engine, it's 60 frames a second, uber smooth, just the realistic environments and everything, that would make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking things from like PS2, Xbox era down should be getting a lot of remake treatments or reboot treatments. Which one do you like better? Would you prefer, say we got a new Jak and Daxter. This is a game we mention all the time. Would you prefer a reboot of the Jak and Daxter series or a remake of Precursor Legacy?
I actually prefer reboots, and the reason why I prefer reboots is I don't know, the market's kind of weird. At least in my opinion, they're weird about the terminology. Like they consider a remake sometimes to be, hey, we're remaking the game, but we're really remaking it from the ground up and completely changing the story, so it's a reboot. Um, so I would just prefer a reboot. Like I was talking about Perfect Dark, because yeah, I can play Perfect Dark. I have a 64. I can just boot it up. I can play Perfect Dark whenever I want. But if you're going to give me a brand new Perfect Dark, or at least start the story over again, kind of like what they did with God of War. The last God of War game was technically a soft reboot. Like it was a continuation, but it wasn't a direct sequel either. It was basically like they sort of soft rebooted the series. And so God of War felt fresh, and it was a new story. So gave you something to look forward to. If they just basically said, hey, here's God of War 1 again.
Remade.
Yeah, but now it's still from the top down, but now it just runs at a certain frame rate and it's HD. Well, okay.
With ray tracing and yeah.
Yeah, and then it's the same gameplay. There's nothing new about it. But if you reboot it, then you're rethinking the concepts of the game. Like you're thinking, okay, how can we make the combat better? How can we make the camera better? How can we make, whatever better? So I think that would prefer a reboot.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'd only prefer a remake for certain games. Like I was really looking forward to the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake, and the fact that it basically is getting shelved is devastating to me. I can't believe it. I was really hoping for a remake. I would prefer a remake over a reboot because that's my favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
So I would love to play my favorite game of all time with next gen graphics, next gen loading, next gen interface, stuff like that. So that's really the only time I would prefer a remake is for my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, and I mean, I clearly recognize that there's a market for remakes because, like I was talking about with my son, he's starting to figure out a lot of games, and one of the things that he used to like playing, he would take my 3DS all the time to play it. He would always play A Link Between Worlds, and so he started to discover Zelda that way, and it's like, okay, well, cool, you know. So if he had picked up Ocarina of Time, because he had his own he had his own 2DS for a short amount of time. If he decided he wanted to have Ocarina of Time 3D, I'd buy that for him. I wouldn't go, you know what, just play the original on the 64. I'd be like, no, experience it brand new with, this different lens. I would. So that's why I think remakes are in. For me, my old soul, my old self, I just prefer a reboot. Because to me, it's like, I would prefer No More Heroes 3 for an example than No More Heroes 2 because I can just pick up No More Heroes 2, But if it's going to be a remake, it should go to a younger generation, somebody that hasn't experienced that game yet, somebody that hasn't, maybe they missed out on it, for whatever reason. Like maybe, I don't know, they only had enough money for one system and they picked up the Xbox One, so they didn't play any games on the PS4. So relaunching these games, remaking these games makes sense for that. But for you think of the lineage of like, hey, I've owned every single PlayStation game, or not every single PlayStation game, every single PlayStation console. You just sort of re-releasing the game again doesn't make much sense.
Right. So you don't. How many? I know you said you like to 100% a game and then you're just kind of done with it. You get everything you can out of it, then you're done with it. Are there any franchises that you've replayed? Or games that you've replayed multiple times throughout the years? Is there one or two games that are your favorite ever and you play them every once in a while?
It's mostly Super Nintendo stuff, believe it or not. Mario World will never get old. I have 100% that game probably 5 times. Like it's so fun. Super Mario World, it was. I remember the day I played it. I remember that whole weekend that I played it, and just like, I get that same feeling every time I play it. It's so fun to play. Super Metroid's the same way. Link to the Past, I've played a few times. So yeah, some of them I do go back and play, especially if it's been a while. Especially if it's been a while, I'm like, I don't 100% remember the X, Y, and Z about the game. I'm gonna go back and try it again. So it really just depends. I still prefer a new one in the series though. It really does depend. Like if you want to get technical about it, like Blaster Master, that's a good series. I love that series. I bought Blaster Master Zero, even though it was technically a remake of the first game. Even though it was a remake of the original NES game, I bought Blaster Master Zero. Mostly because it felt like a new game. The way that it played and the way that it did the story, it felt like it was a completely new game, even though it was a level for level where you progress the exact same way with the exact same items. It was a remake of the first game. So yeah, there are games I'll go back and play. Like I even talked to you about how I've done Horizon Zero Dawn twice. And I might go back and do it again just to try to see if I can get more trophies out of it. But I'm just becoming more and more. Just as I guess I get older, I have less time to dedicate towards games. Um, but I have all this money, so I want to buy new games and play them. Um, I'm just getting more and more lax about, I don't have to get the platinum. I don't have to 100% this. I'm just going to play it to a certain point, say I'm done, and then I'm done.
Right.
And maybe go back later. Like, kind of like what I plan to do with Hollow Knight. Like, I got as far as I could in Hollow Knight, up to the point to where I could not finish the battle arena or the Pantheons. And it's like, I'm done. I'm done with the game. I've got 110% or whatever. Or not 110%, 106% or whatever. I've beaten the story. I've beaten the Hollow Knight 3 times. I've gotten the best ending. I've done everything that outside of doing those, I guess, boss rushes or battle rushes or whatever, that I've done. And I was starting to get frustrated with it. So I'll go back later and maybe do it again.
Try to beat through the rushes or play the whole game again?
I just beat through the rushes, yeah. Cause
Yeah, you won't touch the rest of the game ever again, huh?
No, probably not. 'Cause, I mean, it's a fun experience, but it's just, it takes a lot. It takes a lot for that game. But that was also that game, Hollow Knight. I had to try twice before I got the kind of appreciation for it that I did, and the same thing with which one was it? Oblivion, Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I started playing that game. I got a good ways into it. I played it for a couple of hours. I got a good ways into it. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand these mechanics. I don't get it. I had to start over again and kind of like, okay, I missed this text initially. I somehow skipped this part. I understand it better now. And I was able to, like, it clicked in my head. I got it, and I loved Oblivion, and I played the crap out of it. So it really
Yeah.
it really just depends upon the game. Like, some games I'll give more than one chance to, and others I'll just be like, no, I can tell this isn't going to be worth it, and I will just stop playing.
That happened to me with BioShock. I played it, I think my third time is when I finally got more than like an hour or two in. And it was, when did BioShock come out? 2007, I think. And I didn't beat BioShock for the first time till 2014. So I had tried it a few times and played it for an hour or two, lost interest, didn't care. And then that I don't know, just the stars aligned and everything clicked, and it became one of the most immersive, incredible experiences I've ever had. And that's my second favorite game of all time. We should do a top 5, My
Yeah.
second favorite game of all time is BioShock.
Well, I was just thinking about this the other day as I was kind of going through all my video topics. I was like, I haven't done a top picks in a while. I need to do a top picks. But the problem that I have with doing a top picks is that I don't put them in any sequential order because I don't really have a sequential order. It really depends upon my mood. That's like asking me what my favorite album is of all time. Well, first of all, it depends upon the group. It depends upon how I'm feeling because I have, if I'm happy, it's this. If I'm depressed, it's this. Like, it's so I can't just say, yeah, this is my definitive all-time favorite
Yeah.
album and group of all time. So that's the reason why I don't do that. I don't go, hey, this is my favorite game of all time. I just think, I had really good memories on it, and if I was to, like, a good example would be Horizon Zero Dawn, because we've already talked about how great that story was and how it just blew my mind. That story just blew my mind.
Brilliant.
So when I lost the data for it and I had to start over again, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I don't care. I've already gotten everything in the game anyway, but I like the story that much, I like the gameplay that much, I'm going to do it again. So that's sort of where I stand. Is like, if I lost all my Super Mario World data, would I play it again? Yes. If I had to start all over again and play it with my kids, and teach them, would I play it again? Yes. So that's kind of where I stand as far as like, oh, this is one of my favorites, because would you play it again if you lost all recollection of the game Would you want to play it again? Yeah, I would. So, and then there's others where it's like, I'm okay. So, but yeah, definitely do need to do a top pick sometime as far as like, I don't know, favorite of everything.
Right. Yeah.
Movies, games. I was actually thinking about talking about games that need to come back because there's some games that I feel like they didn't get the proper attention, and they should come back.
Yeah. What games? What are you thinking?
Well, just because it's one of my favorite genres, I was thinking that they need to bring Castlevania back. Uh,
Oh,
Definitely need to bring Castlevania back because all the time they're always talking about, you know, a Castlevania inspired project. Like you had what was it, Ritual of the Night or what, Bloodstained, um,
right.
and now you got these other ones that are being announced like Grim Guardians and all that stuff that they take inspiration from Castlevania. And it's like Metroidvania is one of my favorite game genres. So it's like why not,
Right.
if I'm already playing the Metroids, why not give me you know new Castlevanias also?
Right. There's obviously a raging fan base that eats these games up. I mean, all these games that come out are just beloved and played over and over. And why can't we have the original? Castlevania is one of my favorite series for sure. One of my favorite franchises, and that's definitely one I'd love to see a modern take on. But I don't even need. I don't want it to be 3D. I don't want it. I just want it to be the classic 2D Castlevania Symphony of the Night style. Give me a Symphony of the Night 2, even in the same graphical style, just with, full screen, and I'm in. You don't have to update it. That's one of the things I didn't like much about Ritual. Is it Ritual of the Night? Is it Bloodstained Ritual of the Night? Yeah. I like it. It's a good game, but just the art style and then kind of like the animations and stuff, it's too modern for me. So if I want Castlevania to come back, I'd want it to come back in its purest form almost, and kind of have almost sprite based character models and stuff. So
I would
that would be fun for me.
I wouldn't mind that because like it all depends on how it's done because Fist did a really good job of being a 3D game but also being a side-scrolling game. So it would really depend upon how they did it. I could have a lot of fun with it. Like I even liked Castlevania 64. I just the camera was not that good on it. So even if you did it like an over-the-shoulder game where you're whipping stuff, that's fine. Modernize it a little bit, but don't make it like God of War, like you did with Lords of Shadow. Like don't do that. Make it Castlevania. Make it to I'm finding items and I'm using those items to explore more of the castle. Make it like you said, like what it was in its purest form.
Right.
Make it
I
more.
did enjoy the Lords of Shadow, but it's just not the same.
Yeah,
It's not the same. I think it was a good game in its own right, but it didn't feel very Castlevania.
yeah.
The
That
story did, of course, the themes, the way the vibe was very Castlevania, and I loved it. I actually enjoyed that game a lot, but I want a genuine Castlevania, Metroidvania Castlevania.
Yeah, like I would just love to get like, Symphony of the Night, Dawn of Sorrow, those kind of games again, where it's just like, it's just, even if it's the same, like you said, low res sprite style like they had on Dawn of Sorrow and Aria of Sorrow, that's fine. But those were good years for Castlevania. Like Dawn of Sorrow, I still remember it was probably one of my favorite DS games of all time, just because I spent so much time playing that game. Like
Yeah.
I finished it and didn't even realize it had two more endings. I'm like, oh crap, there's two more endings to this game. Like it can get better. Like there was so much more to explore. Like it was so interesting. It was
Oh, I love it. And I loved Portrait of Ruin, Circle of the Moon. Those two were my probably two favorites from those like handheld, Castlevanias. Portrait of Ruin and Circle of the Moon were so good. I think Circle of the Moon was a Game Boy Advance game,
yeah,
and then Portrait of Ruin was what, DS. So
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. And I remember I even got Circle of the Moon with my Game Boy Advance. Like it was that kind of thing. It's like what am I going to spend all my time playing on my Game Boy Advance? Metroid Fusion, and Circle of the Moon. Like,
Oh gosh, so good.
yeah, like,
Best one of the best genres of video game. It's just completely ignored almost other than indie developers, you know?
hmm
We need to get some AAA developers to truly give us a real, I guess the newest Metroid, huh?
yeah, but that was technically made by some French company. Like, but they got Nintendo's blessing. They worked with Nintendo on it and all that stuff. But it was technically made by, I guess, a second party. Like, because I don't know if they make games for any other console. Um, but
I need to buy that game. You liked it a lot, huh?
yeah, Dread's definitely a lot of fun.
How would you compare Dread to like Hollow Knight? Which
Um,
one do you think is a better execution of the formula?
it depends about what you mean by execution of the formula, because Metroid in itself would be the perfect execution of the formula because it's half of the name.
Right,
You know,
right.
like it's Metroidvania. Well, yeah, it's Metroid. Like, duh. But
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 how do they? Is it good? Is it a good version of Metroid?
I would say that I like Dread more just because it was a little bit more like understood. Like Hollow Knight has a lot of vagueness to it, and so a lot of times it gets frustrating to try to figure out, what are you trying to tell me? What do you want me to do? Because I would look up stuff at the time just to figure out. Oh yeah, there was actually what was it? A mask piece or whatever, a fragment that was right here that because I would have known to hit this wall. Like, yeah, that was very obvious to know I was supposed to hit that wall. Whereas Metroid, they make it a little bit more obvious. But Hollow Knight is just a ton of fun. It's way bigger than Metroid Dread is by far. And there's just so, but again, they added a ton of DLC for Hollow Knight also. So I need to go back and try Metroid Dread again. Now they've added in all this DLC. They added in like Dread mode. They've added in a boss rush. They've added in all this extra stuff. But I think the execution of it, like with the Emmys and the way that you have to be more stealthful because if you make a noise, they'll find you. Um, that brings back the feeling of playing Metroid Fusion. And whenever the the Saix walked into the room, it would start hunting you. So you had to just be kind of quiet to figure out how to sneak around it and all that. It's Metroid Dread's a very fun experience. I think that you would like it, but I just think that I liked it more because I'm more of a Metroid fan.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That franchise loyalty is huge. You know,
yeah.
it's like you're wearing Metroid colored glasses basically while you're playing the game just because you're such a fan of the franchise. You know.
Well, even if anything, like when I was playing Shadow Complex, that's a great game to play also. But then the guy gets like a suit or whatever, and then starts running really fast and has a thing behind him. And it's like, I wonder where I've seen that before.
Yeah.
I can't figure. Oh, that's Super Metroid. Like I start to instantly compare it back to Metroid, and it's like, oh yeah, they did that in Metroid. Let me guess, you're gonna get a double jump now. Yeah, you're gonna get a double jump. Oh, and look, Hollow Knight got a double jump. How about that? Like, it's you start to you start to kind of see the signs of like this is where they're gonna go.
Right.
But
Yeah, man.
but yeah, it's Metroid. The Metroidvania is just such a great series. I love it. Usually that draws me in. That's what got me to play Quietus of the Night or whatever it was. Ender Lilies is what it was.
Right.
That's what got me to play Hollow Knight twice to give it a fair shake. It's what gets me to try a lot of games because it's Metroidvania. Well, I might have to check it out.
Yeah, the Curious Case of Benedict Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait.
Can
That's super anticipated game.
Yeah, I'm definitely waiting for that. Shadow Complex is really good also. I like that, even though um, the story I think is very lacking. It's just got very good gameplay. So
That's one I haven't tried. I think I need to look into that.
yeah, and that's a good example of then playing the remastered or I guess the remake version of it, where they made it a little bit better. Like I was looking for the longest time for Cave Story 3D, just because I have the original Cave Story. It's a fun game. It's a Metroidvania kind of game. But the fact that they made one specifically for the 3DS that makes it pop more, like I wanted to pick it up,
Right.
but I don't have to because I got it digitally on my 3DS. So that's that. So I'm gonna try wrestling again. Um, what else have you had to do multiple times? Because I was just thinking in my head, it actually took me two times of trying to read Name of the Wind before I really understood what was going on, and then fell in love with that. So, is there anything else that where you've had to watch a movie a couple of times to really get it and get a different appreciation for it?
Yeah, there's actually a book series I'm reading right now. I'm on the third book, actively reading it. It's called, well, the first one is called Malice by John Gwynne, and it's a fantasy novel. And for years I've been trying to read it. I think this book came out in like 2016 maybe. And for several years I've read the first chapter, the second chapter, fallen off, fallen off, fallen off, fallen off. And recently I told myself, okay, I'm going to force myself to read through at least 10 chapters and see how it goes. Hooked me. And then I devoured the first book, second book. From June to July, I devoured both of those books, and then in July, I've been reading the third. I'm not devouring it because I've been so distracted with wrestling, and I got into manga, and I've been, watching a little bit of anime and uh, playing games. I was playing Precursor Legacy there for a while, so that took me away from the third book. But that's a good example of something I threw my head at multiple times and fell in love with, and that's cool because it's actively happening. um, Video games, uh, Halo. You know, I never really, I didn't do the Halo 2 multiplayer, Halo
Mm-hmm.
3 multiplayer. Infinite is what really got me. So I bought all the Halos, and then I would play them. I'd play through the campaign a little bit, not even finish the campaigns. Play through the multiplayer a smidge. But with Halo Infinite, I truly fell in love with the multiplayer. So that's another example.
Yeah, Halo. Halo is a very curious case for me because it wasn't until after Bungie no longer had the rights to it. 4 is what really drew me in. Like I was watching the gameplay for it, and I'm like, this actually looks good. I'm gonna give this game a fair shake, and so I picked up Reach and I tried it, and then it's like I gotta know the rest of the story now. So I did 1, 2, and 3, and then I played 4. Um, but Halo was also the series that changed my mind about first-person shooters, because for the longest time I didn't like them. I just thought they were all the same. I thought they were all just you pick up a gun, you shoot something, and you run. And for the most part, they are. But that game in Crisis started to show me, no, it can be more. It can be more sci-fi. It can be more lore-based. It can be more, than just a World War II shooter. So that started to change my mind with shooters.
Yeah, I haven't always been the biggest first person shooter fan as well. I got into it with Call of Duty Modern Warfare in 2007. That was really my first person shooter that hooked me. That's my first multiplayer game really ever, you know. Um, that year, 2007 was a big year for me in gaming. Like that's when I really got online. That's when I went online with all my gaming. Before that, I wasn't online. I know that there was a big online community way before that. I'm thinking with the original Xbox and the PS2. I know there was online
Yeah.
communities. I wasn't online until 360, you know, and so I went online with Call of Duty and NBA 2K. I played a lot of NBA 2K back then and Madden. I was all online. 2007 has got to be one of my favorite years in gaming. Is that when Mass Effect came out too?
I don't know.
When did the original Mass Effect come out?
All I know is that I. It took me a while to think about it. I was still trying to think of what was the very first game I ever got online with, and it's weird because games have been doing online, like you said, for a while now. Like technically, the Super Nintendo could get online because they had satellite view games, and the PS2, you had to buy a modem and stuff, but you could get online with, I think, Final Fantasy 11 was what the game was, because
Right.
you needed to have a whole hard drive just to play that game also, um, which is just insane if you think about it now. Like thinking back in the day of what you got to put a hard drive in a console, that's crazy. Who does that? And you think of, you know, systems now, and it's like, oh yeah, we got hard drives in our systems. So, um, but the very first game that I got online with, it took me a moment to think of it, was actually Phantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast. I bought DSL dial-up just to play it because the Dreamcast did not have broadband; it had dial-up. So I went and I bought dial-up internet just to play online with it, and it was a ton of fun. I bought the little Dreamcast keyboard, and I had friends typing to people about what we were gonna do. Like, okay, we're gonna go in the cave, we're gonna take out the boss now, and all this stuff like that, and coordinate stuff while I'm moving around and picking up items and prepping, and it was a good time. So yeah, it's crazy to think of how long ago that was.
Yeah, I wonder if that shapes my love of single player games. You're more likely to find me playing a single player story driven game than you will an online game. 2007, I was already 18 years old, you know. So
Yeah,
I was an adult, still a kid, young adult, but I'm considered an adult at that point, really at
yeah,
18, and uh kind of my gaming habits were shaped, I guess, and that's why I don't really do online. So going online at that time with Call of Duty and NBA 2K was huge for me, but I'm still more inclined to be playing a single player game.
yeah. Because I mean, that's exactly it. I think it's just maybe because of the generation we grew up in. Because when one of my first systems, um, I mean, I've owned it. I had an NES back in the day, and of course the Super Nintendo. You got used to just playing those games. But when one of the very first systems that I bought with my money was a Dreamcast, and online was still technically in its infancy back then, you kind of don't see it as a big deal. Like, okay, yeah, Fantasy Star Online is cool online, but you're really just playing the same missions offline, just with another person. I can just do this by myself. Um, but it's a different thing for my children because they're growing up in a generation where every game is online.
Right.
You know,
There's some that are online only.
yeah, like they play Roblox all the time, and it's like that's a constant online game. Um, they do Fortnite every now and then. That's an online only game, and it's just they're not really. I don't know. Even when they do Minecraft, I think they think it's weird to do Minecraft by themselves. They got to play with somebody else. I'm like, why do you got to build something with somebody else? You can just build it. Like I like playing online with people that I know. I like getting on a different console and playing with y'all online. But I'm random stranger welcome to my world and blow stuff up. No, no, no. You stay over there. I'm gonna keep building stuff. I can't trust you to not ruin what I've already created. And that plus, I think I just had bad taste in my mouth because I remember I did Metroid Prime Hunters on the DS online, and that was toxic. You had to have a headpiece um, to play it, and just the stuff that I heard from people, and then they're always just sniping from a distance. To as soon as I'm popping in, I'm getting sniped again. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. And that's the reason why I started playing Apex Legends because I got sniped before I even landed on the ground. Like it's just, it gets to a point where it's like this isn't fun anymore. I'd rather just do it offline, by myself, or
Yeah,
play
because
or play with people that I know aren't going to be total jerks.
you've got a bunch of randoms that don't have jobs, don't have, responsibilities, and they have nothing but time. And that's fine. And they're going to be much better than us. We're casual gamers, I would say. I'd say we're hardcore gamers in that we play a lot of games. But I think when it comes to online games, I would consider myself a casual gamer.
Hmm.
Um, so that's interesting.
Because yeah, like I'll get online every now and then, and I'll do a Mario Kart 8 course online, just because I'm curious if it's gotten any better, and I get good in some courses and I get slaughtered in others. And I remember why I mostly stick to it being offline, because I can just get faster and faster. I can get the CC bumped up. But I guess my children just don't understand that. Like my youngest, he's playing Splunky, and he plays Splunky 2, and he would rather play with a random person because he's not good offline. But then he'll complain because that person push them or cause them to die,
Yeah.
or they cause them to lose an item or something. And it's like, well, play it offline.
Right.
But then it's like, but I'm not good offline. Then play with your brothers, or they do the same thing. Then play offline. Like, what do you? I don't get this. Like,
Right.
if I was playing a first person shooter, and like I remember one time I was doing Smash Brothers Brawl. This is a good example. I was doing Smash Brothers Brawl on the Wii, and I was doing online, and I got basically teamed. It was supposed to be. I think that they were in on it because they were both like Fox, but it was a 3-player match, so I thought it was gonna be a free fall. It's gonna be 3 players against all of us against everybody, but it was really just 2 of them teaming up against me, and it's like, well, that's not very fair. So I just stopped playing. I guess they just can't understand.
Right.
They can't understand that concept. They just rage and then they get upset with them, and it's like, well, you know what you can do? You can press the unmute option on the microphone and just lean up to it and ask them very nicely, can you play nice?
Right.
Because a lot of times people will play nice with you if you ask them to. They don't know your level of your skill.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that's if I do get online, it's going to be, I guess, an MMO. Like I could see myself enjoying a game like Skyrim or something like that online. Like, I'm surprised I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online yet, because it looks like it's up my alley. Because it'd be the kind of thing, if you can either play online and fight against randoms, or you can team up with people and play with them. Like stuff like that, I wouldn't mind, because then I'm still able to go and solo it if I want. But it's almost like, I guess, Elder Scrolls, not Elder Scrolls, Elden Ring. Sorry.
Right.
Like, you can do that game completely online, or you can have somebody jump in and help you. And that would be the kind of thing that I think I would be more akin to playing, is because, yeah, if I'm good enough to do it by myself, good. If I'm not, then I'm get frustrated enough, I'm going to ask for help, and I'm going to get past this. So.
Yeah, I feel you. And I'm probably more likely to play the single player portion of an online game. You know what I mean? Like Forza Horizon, for example. I'm a big Forza Horizon fan, but I don't play with anyone. I don't race real players. I don't go and get competitive. I just play through their campaign or whatever, and I do the computer races and stuff like that. So even on a game where it's like way better to play online, there's probably a lot of fun to be had. I just don't like playing with people. I like to play alone.
I don't. I don't know. Maybe it just sounds like I'm whining, and anybody that's listening to this podcast is probably just like, "Oh, you're just a whiny old man." But there's just too much randomness. Like Halo Infinite is a good example of a game that I liked playing, and if I was to get back online with it again, I think that I would still enjoy playing it. But it's like jumping back into Apex Legends now. I would be down here, and everybody's moved up to here. Like. I would just be so lost on what's going on, and everybody's gonna be down there like, walking on their hands, shooting people with their toes. Like I don't even know how you're able to do this, But the single player of Halo Infinite is actually much better than the online, and that's exactly how I feel. Like, even with Syndicate, yeah, it had online, yeah, it had decent online, but it was still just a typical 4 people go in, shoot a bunch of stuff, move on to the next objective. Whereas Syndicate offline was good, because you could see through walls, you could use your different augments to play it. And I guess it's just because of that feeling. I don't know if I can really articulate this very well. Like, I was thinking of Deus Ex. It's like Deus Ex makes you feel like you're a badass. You get all those augmentations. You're able to grab people through walls, pull them through walls, and just do all this awesome stuff. But if you were to play that game online and everybody else is able to do the exact same thing, you're not that special.
Right. Yeah, my wife won't even play single player games. So my wife got into gaming in 2021. That's when she started her gaming, about October, November 2021, when Halo Infinite came out. She was not a gamer. This is really the first time she ever picked up games. Now she's basically a pro level FPS player. I mean, she might be better than me, which is disgusting. That's how much time she's had to put into it. But I'm trying to convince her, like, there's all these great first person experiences that are single player. You could play the Metro series, you could play Dishonored, you could play BioShock,
Oh,
you could play some of the good Far Cry games. Like, I told her, there's so many games that are first person, since you really love that genre, that are first person and fantastic experiences, immersive, Resident Evil 7. Like, there's so many, but she refuses. She's like addicted to competitive online gaming. And I think, the industry thought for a while that nobody cared about single player gaming, and I'm happy that that's kind of been proven otherwise recently with like God of War and Ghost of Tsushima and the Spider-Man games. They continue to kick ass. They continue to just sell and sell like hotcakes. People love them, and I'm glad the industry never really went all online. Like, there was a lot of speculation back in the day that single player gaming was dead and that it was going away.
yeah, but if you look at um, what do people consider maybe to be the top four best single player games? Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, Skyrim, and The Witcher 3. All single player online games, single player only games. There's
Right.
Elden Ring has an online element to it, but it's not really like the everybody against everybody fighting in a battle royale kind of thing. It's this person pops in and assists, kind of like they did in Destiny, where it's like there's kind of somebody here, they help, and then you can go about your way. Um, Otherwise, yeah, some of the biggest games in probably the last decade have been single player games. So
Right. And I just hope they just keep pumping them out, because that's really where I enjoy it the most.
I definitely enjoy it the most too. I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm weird like that, but just I don't know. It depends on how it's done. Because like you were talking about Dishonored, I'm like, man, she really needs to play Dishonored. That's a good game. Like Dishonored is great. But then I was thinking, how much more fun would Dishonored be if it was online though? Like if you had everybody,
If two players or something, yeah.
yeah, if everybody had the same abilities as you, and you're just jumping into like a rat and then sneaking over here and then coming out trying to get behind somebody, but then oh man, here comes this like, and it's just everybody trying to kill everybody, you know, and it's like that would be fun. But then I remember Assassin's Creed, not Assassin's Creed, yeah, Assassin's Creed Online. Like I think it was Assassin's Creed 2 or 3. Just was it was that. It was just, hey, find this person and kill them, and it just shows a player at random, and everybody was an assassin. You just had to hide, and it's just like that wasn't very fun. What made Assassin's Creed fun was you were the assassin trying to kill people, not having.
Right.
So, what makes Dishonored fun is the fact is you can do that. Dishonored might be fun, maybe online if they do it right, but I think they just do it wrong because like Dead Space 2 online wasn't that good. It just wasn't.
Yeah, I think a lot of what made Dishonored special too is just like the immersive sim qualities, right? You'll kind of lose that if you're playing online. You'll lose that kind of freedom to explore levels the way you want, stealth, guns a blazing, level design, different paths,
Hmm.
different ways to approach situations. I think that was the magic of Dishonored. I loved the traversal system, and I loved the abilities, and I loved the combat, but I think what led to those things, the world design, the storytelling, the a level of choice in the game of how you're going to approach every situation. That's what was special, you know. So I think you lose a lot of that. That's what I love about the single player games is how much attention to detail is paid to the story and to the kind of the world design and the world building and stuff, you know. Whereas I don't know what Apex Legends world is about, or you know, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the Fortnite world or whatever. I guess outside of some cutscenes that play when you launch the game or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I don't
and
even
these are
know.
some of the
I don't
most
even know.
popular games.
Yeah, I don't even know the story to that. Like, supposedly Overwatch has a story, and I've watched some of the shorts about it. But I was like, okay, so what the heck's going on? What's the story of Overwatch? To me, you can't explain it very clearly. You can't explain Overwatch
I wouldn't
story
even know where to begin, you know.
because it's just you're just constantly adding stuff. You're adding in a new character. Here's the story. Well, how does that fit in the overall arc of the story? I don't know.
Is there one? Is there an overall arc of the story, you know? It's like that's the thing is these single player games, story driven games to me are so special. They're the true interactive experience that you want to have. It's like being part of a movie, you know?
Yeah, because that's like one thing that I loved about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is its story, and the game developers even said they wanted to build the story first and then build everything else around it. So then it's like, okay, here's a story, so now the combat change system fits within that, and the way the characters react are within that, and so everything is built on top of that. When you're just focusing on, okay, let's just have, because how many times have we attempted this? How many games have been some kind of a first person or third person shooter, and you're teamed up with random people and you take out another team? Like just about any game that comes out, um, especially last generation, in the early 2000s and 2010s especially, they had that formula, and a lot of them just crashed and burned because you know they didn't do anything unique. But what's one of the best first person shooters that I can think of off the top of my head from the last console generation was Titanfall 2, and it had a phenomenal story. So
I miss Titanfall. That's a game series that needs to come back.
yeah, but not like Apex Legends, like an actual Titanfall 3. Like
100%. I want a campaign, full-blown campaign and multiplayer, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, I just want to drop a Titan on somebody. That's all I want to do. Just let me do it once. Just let me have Titanfall 3. Get online for 5 minutes to drop a Titan on somebody's head, and I'm done. Like I'm done. I'll play the rest of the game.
It was so fun. It was so smooth. The multiplayer was so innovative when it came out and so different than anything else you could play, and getting in the Titans just changed the whole vibe of the battle. And
Hmm.
what a brilliant game. The fact that we're not even thinking about getting a 3 is just the most, it's criminal. It is criminal. EA
They
should, you know, they need to be, you know, I don't know.
oh, Titanfall 2 didn't make enough money or whatever. Who cares? Just come out with it. Titanfall is a good idea. But whatever. I'm still hoping that we'll eventually see a revamp of that in some way. Maybe we'll get like. Because I think 2 still has a good community online, if I think correctly. I think people are still playing 2 online on the Xbox Series and all that. So you can still play it. But I'm hoping that maybe it gets revitalized and sort of has a renaissance where people realize, oh, this is a really good game. Where we need to, bring it back. We need to make a Titanfall 3. Yes, please give us a Titanfall 3. I would love to see a Titanfall 3 game on the Series X, 120 frames a second, buttery smooth. Yeah, just bring it. Because I mean, if Halo Infinite can do it and get very smooth, just flowing combat, Titanfall can do it better. So
Oh yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that. I think that's going to definitely go on that list. Um, so you got me thinking now. I should probably find something and write down all these games I'm thinking of. But definitely, and yeah, there's just something about a single player game. I think it's because I've just been so burnt online. Like I said, people either just not been the nicest, or what they considered to be the online mode was just kind of half baked. Like, okay, so you fight in a map and shoot each other. Okay, great. You're just like 50 other games. Or what was it? Dead Space 2, you either play as a necromorph or you play as a marine, and if you're the necromorph, you hunt the hunters, and if you're oh, okay, well, cool. You know what? There's actual story in Dead Space 2. So I guess it just depends on how the multiplayer is done, because I wouldn't mind doing multiplayer. I don't mind it. You know, I've done it before. I've gotten online. Um, and obviously I want to get online because I want to be able to get the most out of my subscriptions. But it's just hard for me to, you know, like playing as Dusk Falls would be a good game to play online because, okay, cool, the story is going along based upon the decisions that you make. Okay, that's cool. When it's just all based upon luck, or you know, if you play long enough, you'll get, or if you buy the battle pass, you'll get an advantage. Or if you play long enough, you'll get a superior weapon and you'll get an advantage. That's not really skill based. That's not really anything that has to do with me. It has all to do with luck, and I don't really care for that.
Right. I'd love to play a very story-driven online game, you know. That's the kind of online I want to play. I want to play something very story-driven. Like you said, As Dusk Falls. That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah, so something like that would be a good. Even with Kid Icarus Uprising, like yeah, it had a decent online, but it wasn't that good. Like the servers sucked, and it really just came down to whoever got a certain item first. Because once you got that item, you could just blast it. You could take out like, you know, it shoots a straight line and takes out pretty much anything in its path. So there goes half the other team in a heartbeat. Like it just wasn't that fun compared to the actual story. So I mean, again, Titanfall 2 is the exception because Titanfall 2 is good, but even the story to me was better than the multiplayer.
Right.
So, and that was actually one of the things that kind of ticked me off about the original Titanfall is you could only play the story online, and you had to be there at a certain time because it just kept going. So if you jumped out and then came back a couple of hours later, the story would like start over. And
Yeah, they were one of the first online-only shooters. I remember how big of a deal that was. People were like, well, what's going on? There's no campaign. It's just online only, you know? They were like one of the early online only shooters. That's interesting.
yeah. So, what else do we want to see come back? We've already said Titanfall. We've already said we'd love to see Castlevania come back. What else should come back? Anything like RPG?
Knights of the Old Republic. I'll say it till I die. You know that's what I want back. I've wanted a Knights of the Old Republic 3 since 2005, I think it was when the Sith Lords came out. So yeah, that I want a Knights of the Old Republic. The online MMO was a joke to me. I know there's a lot of people that love it, and it is one of the most story-driven MMOs there are. But it doesn't suffice to me. The combat doesn't feel as um, just it's an MMO, right? So like your enemies regenerate every time you leave the zone, and you got to run through them again, and it breaks the immersion of an RPG in that style. So I'd love a full blown Knights of the Old Republic 3 or that remake. So that's what I want.
I mean, yeah. I guess you're technically still getting that because I don't know if it's officially been canceled. As far as I know, it's just on the back burner.
It's not sounding good.
Yeah, it's not sounding good, but it's not officially canceled, which is always weird to have games in limbo like that. Like that's what annoys me. Just don't talk about it. Like I know they mentioned Metroid Prime 4 in the beginning, and then Nintendo says that it's still slated for 2023 as a to be announced title, but then don't put it on there because if it's to be announced, then you don't have an exact date of when you have an idea when it's going to come out. So it might be delayed.
Right.
So it might be delayed again. It might be a 2024 game. It might be a next gen. Wait until you have an actual date. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand why people do that. You want to give them something, to look forward to. You show them a teaser trailer and it's like, look how awesome this world looks. But like what we talked about previously, if it's just all CGI and it's not representative of the final game, then I'd rather just wait a couple of months and you show me actual gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you say, hey, because like that's granted, a lot of games they said weren't going to come out, I think, until the first half of 2023. But I still applaud Microsoft for all these games that we're showing you are gameplay, and they will be out within the next year.
That was they knocked it out of the park, I think.
Because that to me is better. Because when I start thinking, oh yeah, I want to play, whatever, I want to play Resident Evil 8 in VR. Well, that's not going to happen until it's okay. Well, then I'm not interested. I'm gonna lose interest because everything else is going to suck up my time, and by the time the game comes out, I'm not going to remember. So
Right.
it's best for you to tell me, hey, within the next 6 months, this is going to come out, so I can make a note of, oh yeah, August, that's right around the corner. Oh hey, October, it's right around the corner. Or January, oh that's right around the corner. I can remember that. But if you say, oh, it's going to come out holiday next year, okay, well, holiday is like 3 or 4 months next year, so when? But that's just me. Um, let's see. I This is a weird category for me. I would just love to see another Quantic Dream game. Now I know they have that new Star Wars game that they're coming out with, and I think you're looking forward to that more than I am. But I just
Oh, huge, yeah.
I love Quantic Dream and the way they do games. What was it? The very first one, not after Nomad Soul. The very first one on. Why am I drawing a blank on it? Indigo Prophecy. Thank you, Brain.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Brain, for finally remembering.
I was gonna say, is it Fahrenheit something?
Yeah, it's Fahrenheit in Europe, but over here it's Indigo Prophecy.
Right.
Um, from the way they did that, Heavy Rain, just masterpiece of a game.
Masterpiece.
Yeah,
It's stuck with me. It's still with me. I that sticks with me more than something like a multiplayer game or an online like you play through Heavy Rain. It takes you 10 hours, and you have this impression that lasts with you forever. And it's like that's the kind of experience I want. So a Quantic Dream game, yes. And I've fallen out of love with the Star Wars franchise completely. I think the sequels have been complete jokes. Uh, so I've completely fallen out of love with Star Wars, and I'm still looking forward to that massively. Because if it's just going to be its own story set in the Star Wars universe, I think the Star Wars universe has tons of potential for phenomenal storytelling. I mean, it's a universe that's been built to the point where it's just ripe, for the taking for storytelling. So I'm
yeah,
super excited, and they're gonna kill it, and it's gonna be the most beautiful game we've ever seen in our life.
yeah. Because I mean, I think Disney kind of shot themselves a little bit when they basically just like, yeah, the books and all that aren't canon. Because it's just like, really, because some of those books were really good.
Yeah.
Like some of
Oh
those
yeah. Just
some of those books were really good, and all you really had to do was just sort of borrow some elements from those books and make a movie, and you would have done good instead of doing your own thing with it. But I mean, whatever. I haven't really cared for Star Wars since the original trilogy. Um, the second trilogy was okay. I haven't even bothered with the next one. I don't care past that. Um, I don't care past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Like I don't care. So, but yes, Quantic Dream and the way that they do games, like you and I have talked about all the time about how much we love Detroit Become Human. It's a great game. Even Beyond Two Souls, as rough as it was at some points, it was still a pretty decent game to play. To see what they can do on the PS5
I,
is going to be great, and
it.
I'm hoping that the Star Wars game is that.
It's brilliant. I could already see it. Like coming up as a young Jedi, and Quantic Dream games are all about making choices, and I bet there's different paths you could take to like either go down the light side or the dark side. I bet there's a way. If one of the characters is a Jedi, we don't know what it's going to be, but if one of the characters is a Force sensitive, and you could go either way, kind of like Knights of the Old Republic. You could be good or bad depending on your choices. That's going to be brilliant. That's going to be phenomenal. And then there's probably going to have a few other characters that you play as, and I just feel like it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, like I was just thinking right now, since they usually like to have at least two characters, if they do three, one's just a normal person, just like working a 9 to 5. Maybe they fix ships or something. They don't know what's going on, and suddenly this random weirdo comes in and starts lifting up stuff with his mind, and you sort of follow that around. And then one story you're a Jedi, and the next one you're a Sith, and it's constantly interweaving. The Jedi's making decisions over here that are affecting the other story, and it's like at the end of it, it's just like they face each other or something, and it's like, yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think especially depending on how they do it, because if they have it to where again it almost would feel like you would get the Knights of the Old Republic again, to where it's like, hey, you're playing as a Jedi, and the conversations that you're having with people are affecting the story.
Yes,
Like it would,
that's why.
like it would almost be a Mass Effect Star Wars game. Like it would be one of those kind of things where it's just like, yeah, you romanced this person, but they were really a Sith, and now they've turned you to the dark side, and like there's all kinds of stuff they could do.
Oh, I know, and they're going to go bigger and better than ever, right? So there's going to be more choices to make, more story paths, more endings. You got to imagine they're going to try to make it more intricate than they've ever made any other game. And Detroit Become Human blew my mind, so this is going to probably be just like, this might be their best game. That's what I'm putting, that kind of hype on it for myself. I'm setting myself up to be disappointed, but I just feel like they're such a good developer that they can't fail. If it's a
Yeah,
completely original Star Wars story, then they can't fail.
yeah, and see that actually might get me to play a Star Wars game again, because every single game that I've played by Quantic Dream I've enjoyed, even if it's been one like Beyond Two Souls. That, yeah, it's not the masterpiece of you know Heavy Rain, but it's still good.
Yeah.
Even Indigo Prophecy fell flat on its face towards the end of the game, but that's because they intended for it to be 3 games, and they had to sort of mesh everything together. But Omicron: The Nomad Soul, great game, and that's a game where you basically never die. If your character dies, someone touches them, and you jump into their body, and now you're taking over their life. Like it's such a interesting idea, and it was a computer game and a Dreamcast game. It didn't really get a whole lot of attention. Stuff like that is what I'm looking forward to. I think it's gonna be good. Um, but I don't know if we talked about this before, because you mentioned hype, and I just started thinking of are we overhyping ourselves? Because I think in some ways we are. Because it's almost like Breath of the Wild 2, I think, is getting, as an example, so much hype because of just how big and just how much Breath of the Wild took off with popularity. That people were thinking, oh, they're going to go much bigger, they're going to do this, they're going to do this. No, they might not. They might go in a complete opposite direction. This might be the Zelda 2 of Breath of the Wild. Like, this might be something that's just so left field that people are like, what is this? Same thing with Metroid Prime 4. Same thing with the Star Wars Old Republic, I think is what it's called. Um, Same thing with all these games. They could easily just go left field. So are we sort of overhyping ourselves? Because, yeah, I mean, some games, Callisto Protocol, we have a pretty good idea of what it's like. They've shown legit gameplay of it, and they said from the developers of Dead Space, so you know what you're getting into. But then you got some games that were like Recore. Recore was a good game, but they built it on the backs of people who made Metroid Prime and didn't play anything like Metroid Prime. So I wonder sometimes, do we overhype ourselves as gamers because we're looking forward to something so much that we think, oh, it's going to be huge and they're going to do this, and it's not.
Yeah, I think the essence of my hype is I just want to feel the way I felt when I played the first game. You know, so for Star Wars Eclipse, I just want to feel the way I felt when I played Detroit Become Human. You know, when
Yeah,
I play Breath of the Wild 2, I just want to feel the way I felt when I played Breath of the Wild 1. And it's you can't just give us the same game to make us feel that way, though. We kind of talked about this last time. I think maybe in the one that got deleted. Um, you can't just give the same experience because in your brain you're thinking I've been here and I've done this before. So that's not good enough. You need to really expand on it and stuff. So I think what we do is we expect to have that same experience, but it all be fresh and new within the same confines of that franchise. So I like we talked about, I think we are hyping ourselves up too much because I don't think any sequel could ever really truly live up to the original. And maybe I'm wrong. I know there's a lot of people that love sequels and think that they're better games than originals. But I'm just kind of the mind that maybe it's impossible for things to ever meet someone's expectations. I think that's why there's so much disappointment in movies and TV and games and books and la da da, because you consume something and you think, "Oh my god, that was amazing. I loved that. I enjoyed every bit of that. Your neurons were firing the whole time through. Your adrenaline was pumping, like, the chemical uh, process of loving something and being obsessed with something was going, and then you get the sequel and you're expecting it to be that, and how could it ever be that, you know?
Yeah, I try to go into everything with a fresh mind, because I'm not. I obviously wasn't expecting Detroit Become Human to be like Heavy Rain. I mean, they obviously looked different. They obviously had completely different stories. I mean, that was very obvious. But I still wanted to have, and I mean, I did get it from both games. Those moments where you're kind of just biting on the controller, and
Yeah,
you're just kind of thinking, how is this decision going to mess this game up? Like how
right. You want that feeling.
yeah, you want to have that feeling of like, if I make this decision, I could kill someone, but don't want to give them up and possibly ruin this whole like. You start to really deep dive stuff. Um, and I think that's it's kind of hard for me to get hyped on something just because I always have a little bit of resistance. At least until I see it fully, fully fledged. But yeah, there was just something about movies and TV shows where we got to have the sneak peek of stuff. People are like they're sneaking up on set and they're taking pictures of like, oh, this is how so and so looks as the Joker, and blah blah blah. So it's like, okay, well, great, you just ruined the next Batman movie for me because now I know what the Joker looks like. I know who's playing it. That surprise is gone. You know, so I can't go into it with a fresh mind now. It's been ruined. Um, I kind of miss the old days. Like Nintendo Power, for an example. You wouldn't see a game until it's basically about to come out. So when you see Wind Waker in Nintendo Power, you're seeing the game and you're seeing actual clips from it. And oh, I've touched the game, I've played it. This is what it actually is. You know. Whereas now we've got. I mean, I don't like to talk about it anymore because I think it's in a better state now. But then we get stuff like the Sonic Frontiers, where it's like they were so focused on we have to break the story on this, we have to show it now, that they basically have ruined the good faith of the game. It looks a lot better. It
Right.
looks a lot better now, but that initial reveal kind of took some people aback. It's like, well, now I don't know about it. Whereas if you just waited closer to release time, you could have shown off 2 or 3 different zones, a couple of boss fights, shown off some gameplay, and people would have been, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
I guess it depends upon how quickly, because I think that's the issue. People just want to have this stuff first. That's. I mean, granted, I know that they say rumors and take all this stuff with a grain of salt, and I do the same thing. I talk about rumors too, so um, I'm not excluding myself in this. But I think some people just have to be first to get a scoop on something. That's usually why I wait a day or two to report on it, because if I did, I would talk about stuff that then is proven to be false, and I feel like an idiot. I kind of wait.
Right.
I kind of wait to see, is this vetted? Is this story still true after a day or two? But I think there's just some people that they have to jump on something immediately, and they're just like, oh, so and so said this, so therefore it means this, and the voice actor said he's doing this, so it must mean that. No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that at all. But I guess that's why I liked Microsoft, like we talked about, because they showed off games that were coming out within the year, Nintendo usually does that also. Um, but yeah, I don't think some people get hyped. I think some people do overhype themselves. I remember, what was it, with Homecoming? I think it was. There was all this hype about this character's going to be in this movie. This character's going to be in this movie. This actor's coming back. This actor's going to do you know? Do you know for sure? I know for one thing, Tom Holland will be in it. I know that. Like, that's the only thing I know for sure. Until they actually showed, like, legit in the movie, you saw Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in Homecoming. Otherwise, it was like, there might be multiple Spider-Man, there might not.
Yeah, social media has ruined everything, man. Back in the 70s, if the sequel to one of your favorite movies was coming out, or the 80s, even the 90s, you didn't know what was going to be happening in that movie. You saw the trailer, and that's about it. Maybe you read a little piece of media in a magazine about it. Maybe you saw something in the newspaper about it. You didn't know from leaks, internet leaks, that, oh yeah, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, or whatever his name is, are in this movie. It just ruins it. I still haven't watched it. It just ruins it.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you wouldn't be ruined.
Yeah, I mean, I did go ahead and watch it just because there was still some stuff that happened in there that wasn't really like ruined or spoiled. But yeah, it got to the point to by the time I was at the end, I'm like, and we can stop here. Like,
right.
By the time you get to the Statue of Liberty, you can just stop because it's like, yeah, we know about the villains and what they do and Andrew Garfield. Yeah, we know all that. We know all that. At this point, I don't have to watch anymore. But yeah, I feel the exact same way because I still have not seen The Dark Knight Rises because of that exact same thing. Like, I knew, this is, Bane and Talia al Ghul is actually in it. It's a secret villain, and there's really a Robin. Like, there's thank you very much. You basically
all the reveals. Yeah, I know.
You basically have told me everything that could possibly maybe surprise me, to where it's just not. It's gonna suck the fun out of it. Whereas going in and watching The Dark Knight was fun because we didn't know how Heath Ledger was going to be with the Joker, so it was good watch. So I think we just kind of, I don't know, but that also comes down to us, because like one of the things that doesn't hype me, or one of the things that doesn't ruin an experience for me, is I ignore it. Like I told myself, especially these upcoming Marvel movies, now that we're getting back to movies coming back to theaters, I'm not watching. Somebody says I went to the midnight release of this, and nope, I'm not watching. Nope, I'm not watching your video. I don't want to know a lick of what happens. I'm gonna go watch this movie myself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the best thing to do, is we just sort of shut our ears and we just tune it all out. We don't look at articles. We just scroll past it real quick, and I mean, some stuff you can't avoid because everybody posts it and it's there, but then you just sort of go on a whole ban of I'm not even gonna get near my computer for a week, like until I see this movie, because I don't know. I think that's just best, because otherwise, like you said, there are people that they're ruining it. Like I basically had the last, I guess, the final villain of The Flash and the last season that they did. I had that whole thing spoiled to me because somebody took a picture of the person in the suit, and I was like, great, thank you. I still enjoyed the season, I still watched it, but I knew where it was heading, so
right,
it sort of takes the fun out of it. But we can still have fun of stuff, because yeah, Breath of the Wild 2 is probably not going to live up to the expectations that people have from it. It's still going to be a fun game. Star Wars Eclipse, like you're talking about, just the fact that Quantic Dream goes nuts with their games, is probably still going to be enjoyable, even if you know one ending to the game. You probably aren't going to know the 50 other endings that they might have.
Right.
So, I mean, who knows? Because, I mean, a good example, and it also comes down to the marketing team and what they show, because sometimes, some marketing teams, they'll show off too much. One thing that I've liked about, like, Xenoblade 2 and Xenoblade 3, and a lot of the games I've been seeing lately, is they will only show the first part of the game. Like, I thought when I saw stuff for Xenoblade 3, and it's like, oh man, they're showing the Ouroboros forms, and they're showing this, that, and the other. They're showing me like half the game. Nope, they only showed you like the first two chapters.
Right.
After that, it is no.
I think companies have done a good job of like putting dates on things and making it embargoes and making it to where um, content creators can't show video past certain parts of games and can't talk about certain things in games and stuff like that when they're doing early reviews, right? So
Hmm.
I like that
And
because
even on the PS5,
yeah,
they do that. Like if you get a little tip that comes up, people can record their gameplay or whatever, and you can sort of see, okay, this is how you get this achievement, or this trophy. I mean, but they'll say contains spoilers. Do you want to watch?
right.
So that way you don't like, yeah, I've thought about it. I don't actually want to watch, and so you don't.
Yeah, and I pull up a review for every game before I buy it. I'm not sure if that's how you are, but I'll watch 3 or 4 YouTube reviews and read a couple written reviews of video games before I buy. Typically, unless I know it's a franchise I just want to play, period, day one or. But even then, I'll usually like fire up a couple reviews before I play it, and I kind of want to stop doing that. I'm wondering sometimes if I'm poisoning my own brain here and like making myself have different opinions of things that I don't have. I need to just start experiencing games fully by myself without hearing what other people think about them first.
It depends. Like a game that I'm sold on, as an example, as Dusk Falls. I saw it. I knew what it was. It was going to be story driven. It's going to have different branches based upon my decisions. I'm going to play it. It doesn't matter what a review says. A review can says, "Look, this game is absolute crap. You're going to get diarrhea if you play it." I don't care. Like, I'm still going to play it. If it's a game that I'm kind of on the fence on, yeah, I'll probably like, okay, what are people saying about it? What like here's a YouTuber that I trust. I trust their opinion. What are they saying? But you also have to be careful with the YouTubers that you watch, because some people, I feel like Angry Joe does this. I feel like he deliberately hates games more just because it gives him more clicks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff he likes too, so I can't really say that. But I know that there are some people, especially smaller time people. I've seen them. They feel like they find everything to grab about a game, just so they can get like that notoriety. And some people do the opposite. They find I'm more of the latter. I'm more the kind of person that I find it, stuff that's good with the game and that I like. I guess because I need to justify the purchase. Even if it's something that's on Game Pass that's included, I still want to be able to justify. Like, no, I downloaded it. The game is going to be worth my time. Like, so there's something good about this game. Dang it. Um, but yeah, if it's something I'm on the fence on, I'll read reviews on. I don't remember a game in particular, but I'll do that. If it's a movie that I'm not quite sure of, like, yeah, the trailers look interesting, but it also looks kind of like it might not be. I'll go and see what somebody else says. I'll go and read 2 or 3 reviews on it and kind of be like, okay, it seems like if I take this extreme and I take this extreme, that it's somewhere in the middle, and then I form my bias from there. But if it's a game like, I mean, you talked about Knights of the Old Republic. I've talked about Zelda 2. If it's just that kind of game, it's like I'm buying it no matter what.
Yeah.
So it really depends. It really depends upon the movie or the TV show or the game. If I'm absolutely convinced it's going to be great, it's not going to matter. I'm going to go see it anyway. If it's something I'm on the fence on, yeah, I'm going to read reviews. I'm going to watch some gameplay footage, and I'm going to kind of be like, yeah, based upon what I'm seeing, the gameplay looks like it's going to be interesting. I'm going to try it. Because I did that with Resonance of Fate. Thank you. Why does my mind do this? It always thinks of stuff like after I've moved on. Um, Resonance of Fate was like this weird RPG game that I kind of heard about. It's like, oh, it uses acrobatics and guns, and it's like, okay, that sounds maybe like it's good. But I watched some video on it, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna give this a try, and I actually liked Resonance of Fate. You know, just because I gave it a shot. It's a game that if I had like seen it at GameStop and I just like walked right past it, I would probably no, I would put it back on the shelf. Like I probably would have passed on it. So that's just an example of, sometimes I use a review to help me buy a game or deter me from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're good for. I'm obsessed with them. I'll watch them, three or four, five, six. I'll watch a bunch. I got a bunch of different people I watch, and
Yeah,
sometimes I wonder, am I spoiling it all? Like, am I just spoiling it for myself almost?
yeah. I mean, that's what I was gonna say is you got to kind of be careful to an extent because yeah, there are some people um, that again I trust. I know they're not gonna really or they'll come out with two videos. I know one. I know one in particular. They'll come out with two videos. They'll say one is a spoiler video and one is a spoiler-free video. And so a lot of times I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go watch the spoiler-free one because I want to see this movie. But if it's one that I don't give a rat's butt about, I'm gonna go watch the spoiler one because like I don't care. You can spoil it. I'm not gonna watch it.
Right.
Or if you do spoil it, you might change my mind and go, that was actually a really good thing. I'm gonna go watch it now. So it really does depend because some people can just go too far and spoil it.
Yep. Agreed.
I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'm seeing here we've kind of wound up the clock on this one, but we always have good conversation. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
I love doing this, and like I told you before, I might move this up to a bi-monthly thing. Instead of at the end of the month, we do it like in the middle and at the end of the month, just because it's fun. And I think as gaming news is picking up more towards the end of the year, we're getting the big holiday releases and stuff. We're gonna get more gaming news, and as we get more gaming news, there's gonna be more stuff to talk about. So I don't think we can just wrap it all up in one session at the end of the month. But
Yeah.
we'll see because your schedules is busy. I try to keep myself as open as possible, but with kids going back to school and stuff, I'm gonna have a lot more time, but still relatively busy with work and all that also. So it is what it is.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. We'll make time.
And so, where can people find you at? Have you decided if you're gonna do YouTube at all, or are you just gonna kind of just keep doing this with me?
I'm not really on social media, in any public way. Um, I haven't started the YouTube yet. I'm going to think about really giving it a real go soon. I'm starting to get real motivated to do that. So I'll let y'all know when I do.
Well, again, you can always just. I mean, I've done this a couple of times, and you could probably tell the difference in my videos when I do it. Sometimes I'll just write a script. I'll pull up a document, and I'll just type out random thoughts. And when I get 4 or 5 thoughts, I'm like, you know what, this is good enough to do a video on. And I'm just going to read from the script, and I'm going to follow that.
Right.
Then sometimes I do 2 or 3 or 4 videos. I end up doing 2 or 3 or 4 takes, and I just put in the best one. So um, you can just do that.
Yeah.
Even if you never publish it, you can always just be like, you know what, I'm just going to record this video, and if it's crap, if the video quality isn't good, if the sound isn't good, if I just, I look fugly that day, I'm not gonna post it. And if you decide to, then that's great. I'll support you. I'll be happy to come on, um, and help out as best as I can. Like just I think having a good place that just we mostly focus on gaming here. I really need to focus more on the retro and the geek part. So I was glad that we were able to get more of the geek stuff in there this time. Um, but having a specific place that's only wrestling is good. Um, that's why I try to keep my channel focused because I don't want people to get confused about what's his content. Well,
Right. Right.
it's mostly gaming, but and I've seen other YouTubers do that too, where they have a sports channel and then they have a gaming channel, and the sports channel doesn't do nearly as well as the gaming channel does. So um, it really depends, but it's always a pleasure to have you on here, Mike. I always look forward to talking to you, regardless of whenever that is, any chance I get. And maybe we'll do half the stuff that we've been talking about at some point. Who knows?
Yeah.
And of course, guys, if you did enjoy this video and you listened to it for the whole being 2 hours that we've done this crap, you're welcome to give a like. You're welcome to subscribe if you want, because we might be doing this a lot more often, and you can listen to my voice too if you want. And yeah, and as you can see, I've been updating the channel lately, so I'm probably gonna try to do better editing. Who knows? I'm probably gonna have a little more time on my hands now. We'll see. But it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye.